Hi, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the Zeus 3P's podcast. I'm Scott Elkins, CEO of Zeus Fire and Security. Today's episode is a little different. Rather than hosting, I'm stepping into the guest seat to reflect on some recent moments that have sparked gratitude and pride, and it given me a chance to pause and think about how far we've come as a company, as a team, and as a network of Zeus partners. So with that, I'm handing the mic to someone who's been part of our story and our journey from the very start. Kevin McAllister, founder and managing partner at Access Holdings. Kevin, thanks for being here.
Well, thanks, Scott. And what a journey it's been. A lot of exciting moments there have been in the last couple of years. And let's start with one.
Sure.
The Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year for the Philadelphia area. You're going to go to the National here shortly. Very exciting year. And the Access Holdings Building Enduring Businesses Award that you received this year at our Leadership Summit. What a busy year it's been for you and the entire team. Let's start there.
Yeah. So it has been a busy year, and I am incredibly honored to have won both those awards. But those awards, as I think you know, are a reflection not of the work that I've done, but of the work the team has done. We're really fortunate to be surrounded by an incredible leadership team and then 800 unbelievable employees across the Zeus network that make us successful. As I said at the Entrepreneur of the Year speech when I was given the award, that it's really named wrong, right? Because there's really no such thing as an Entrepreneur of the Year. There's somebody that's really fortunate to be surrounded by great people that gets the award on behalf of the team. And that's the way I looked at it then, and that's the way I look at it today. The Access Business Builder Award was particularly special because that was the first ever.
Yes.
And couldn't be more thrilled to have won it. I was sorry that I wasn't there in person. We were hosting an event, as you recall, but thrilled to have won that award. And again, same thing, Kevin. Being part of the Access ecosystem, being part of the Access family is incredibly special in and of itself. But being acknowledged for the work this team has done is an honor that I carry on behalf of the entire Zeus network. So thank you for the award.
And the way you answer that question is indicative of the leader that you are, Scott, and why we're so pleased and so privileged to have the opportunity to work with you and your entire team. And what you've accomplished to date is truly remarkable. But let's back up and let's start from the beginning, because one of the pleasures that I have in working with so many extraordinary entrepreneurs, and you being at the very top, is the journey to get to this moment.
Yeah.
And it's been a long journey for you, and I'd love to kind of reflect a bit on that.
Sure. It has been a long journey. It started, as you know, it started 35 years ago. It's hard for me to even say out loud that it's been 35 years, but it has. You know, me, I wake up every morning shot out of a cannon, so it doesn't feel like 35 years.
Very early in the morning you wake up.
I do, very early, for sure. But it's been a long journey, but it's been a great one. So, I started 35 years ago at UAS, one of our businesses today, which is so exciting that UAS lives on. By the way, that's part of the value that we add at Zeus. The legacy of our companies that these founders built live on. Mine lives on, which is so exciting. And it lives on, by the way, as a better company today than it did 35 years ago, which is even cooler. So had an opportunity for 32 and a half years to help lead UAS into a large national account provider of what we call Core 4 services, right? Fire, access, video, and alarm. We own and operate our own monitoring center. And look, we came to a point where lots of business owners come to, and I've got to see this in real time now as CEO of Zeus, where you've got a founder that's, at a certain age, other shareholders that are maybe even a bit older. I had 2 shareholders in their 80s. I had one in his 50s. And it was time for them to move on. But it wasn't time for me. I wanted to find a partner that I could, continue. I felt like I was just getting started. And it was great for me to do what was most important for me at the time, was to ensure that my employees, my customers, and my family members were all taken care of. And then once that was done, it's going to be, what's the next thing for Scott Elkins? What's the next thing for UAS? How do we reinvent ourselves, right? And do something different and better in this space? And that's when I was introduced to Access Holdings. And
aren't we lucky that we had that moment where we got introduced and have been able to work together? And one of the things that's been so exciting for us at Access is the way that you've approached innovating and advancing Zeus in this domain. And we've had a lot of conversations over time about solving the customer's problems
Yeah,
or addressing maybe industry challenges in a unique way. And you've certainly been at the forefront of doing that. Your position in Net One is obviously indicative of that. You get the privilege of being able to work with some amazing people in that group.
for sure.
Um, but talk us through a little bit about the mission every day, the challenge you're trying to solve. I love your kind of 3P's.
Yeah.
It's clarifying, and it's certainly a rallying cry for your organization. But there's some interesting moments of truth along this journey that you've, I think, discovered. And I'd love you to reflect on a couple of those because you discovered those in partnership with your team.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a lot to unpack. So
It is, yeah.
I'll do my
Sorry,
best here.
there's about 10 questions in there,
That's
right?
okay. I'll do my best. So innovation. It's interesting, Kevin. When you're a small business owner like I was, you view innovation differently than you view it and the folks at Access view it. So part of stepping into this role was being open and willing to understand and be receptive to a new way to consider innovation. So innovation for me was identifying customer solutions that were accessible in the market and being maybe first or most creative or package them best. That was innovation. But when I saw the A2C, when I saw the All campaign, the All Lab, when I saw the capabilities that Access brought to the table, my definition of innovation changed. And I think that stayed with me really throughout the entire last 3.5 years since we launched Zeus, that there's a different level of definition of these really important words like innovation, leadership, culture. Like I believe that we were strong in all of those throughout my years
Right.
at UAS. I didn't know anything about them truly, Kevin,
It,
until we joined Access.
well, I appreciate that. And I think the context that I have and my partners have is we've been fortunate to be on the journey with so many extraordinary executives along the way, and they all encounter these similar issues. And so for us, our moment of truth was saying, I can either keep on solving the same problem over and over again. I think that's the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
Or we can construct solutions so that when I remember when you came to our office the first time, we were in version, I'd say negative 1.0 of
Yep.
some of these tool sets, to show what good can look like,
Yeah.
right? Because I think without the context, without kind of clarifying around what is innovation, and what are the tool sets, it's abstract.
So I'm a big believer in understanding the possibilities, but you need to see what's possible. That whole notion of nobody could break the 4-minute mile until somebody did, and then everybody broke it.
Yes.
The idea that all these tools are available to us required a pretty significant shift in mindset in order to say, I'm going to step out of my comfort zone, the
Yes.
way I did things for 32 years,
Yes.
and I'm going to be willing to do them differently. And what's incredibly cool about that, from my perspective, Kevin, is that your team said to me, it's okay that you haven't done this. You haven't brought any bad habits with us. We're going to help you. We're going to help you create kind of this new version of what an entrepreneur looks like. So when we talk about kind of entrepreneur of the year and business builder, I wasn't born an entrepreneur. I was created, and a lot of that was created by Access.
Well, you're giving us way too much credit because what I would say is our experience has been that so much of innovation is a function of your mindset and the way you approach situations and problem solving,
Yeah.
right? And we talk a lot about this kind of first principle thinking, and taking things down to the essence of what is the customer looking for, what is our competition providing, and looking in more of a clean sheet of white paper, what could we do that would, leapfrog everyone else? And you've been extraordinary with your entire team about embracing what that can look like. And I reflect back on one of the stories you told me early in the evolution was when you went out for your first national account business.
Yeah.
And I think what was so telling, and this is before we had started our partnership, was that the best leaders that I know listen really well. And I think you were going out to try to figure out who could service and implement the deployment of this contract.
Yep.
and you got some interesting feedback. And I think reflecting on feedback and not being overcome by that feedback and paralyzed by that feedback, but instead seeing it as opportunity, is ultimately one of the things that I think best leaders and individuals and organizations do well, which is not seeing a challenge, but seeing an opportunity. Talk
Yeah.
us through that.
So it's so cliche that really there aren't any problems or just opportunities,
Yeah.
but it's true. That story for the audience, that story was really fun. We were awarded 100 accounts from a national quick service restaurant chain, which at the time was 20% of our business. It was a big deal.
And I think so often folks don't understand or map their value chains well and understand their stakeholders well. And when you shared that story with us early in our journey of partnership, it was very enlightening for me and gave me a tremendous amount of confidence that your mindset and your way of approaching problem solving was going to allow you to have all the success you've had in the last, I guess we're on a journey almost 4 years now, right?
Just over 3.5 years.
Just over 3.5 years almost.
Yeah.
So it's truly remarkable because I think you've now, from the very beginning, um, 6 to 7 times larger than when we started, and your momentum's growing. And I'm always curious. I know I have some of these insights, Scott, but for the benefit of this audience,
Sure.
what's next? What's ahead?
Yeah, so we haven't completed our goal, and we're hyper focused on our goal. So you mentioned the 3P's, which we live by. They're part of our mission statement, which is to protect people, property, and profits. This is the 3P's podcast studio,
Yeah.
which, by the way, we came up with the 3P's 2 hours after we closed and launched Zeus. So we were in a conference room in Chicago at 11 o'clock. The transaction with me was complete. I was now part of Zeus. 2 hours later, we were in a conference room with 25 people at that same hotel, and we literally whiteboarded out what a mission statement would be. And what's incredibly important to me is that you will not see our mission statement on a wall in this building, because mission statements, in my opinion, they're put on a wall, stay on the wall, and never get read. We live and breathe our mission statement every day. But I'm a big believer that we grew into that mission statement. Protecting people, property, and profits was something that everybody in the security industry does. But for us, it's a rallying cry to help our employees and our customers understand that what we do every day at Zeus matters. What we do in this business matters. And look, you see a picture of a hedgehog and you see a stuffed hedgehog, and I carry a stuffed hedgehog in my briefcase, not only for presentations, which I do a lot of hedgehog presentations, but as a reminder to me of what's most important to us. And the hedgehog concept, which was really made famous by business author Jim Collins. Imagine a Venn diagram, and in that center where those three circles come together, it's what are you passionate about? And I'll tell you all day what I'm passionate about. Everybody here's passionate about the 3P's, about ensuring that our customers are protected, that we protect people, property, and profits. What drives our economic engine? We need to be profitable in order to do the business that we do. Our customers should want us to be profitable. Our employees should want us to be profitable. So no shame in being profitable.
Yes.
So what are we passionate about? What drives our economic engine? And then what can we be, stand by now, what can we be the best in the world at? And everybody stops there and they said, the best of the world's too aspirational. Like nobody's the best in the world. And I always say, I don't buy that at all. First of all, why not strive to be the best of the world?
100%.
But we don't have to be the biggest alarm company ever. We're probably not going to be. And frankly, aspirationally, that's not part of our plan. But we can be the best in 100 different categories. It could be customer satisfaction scores. It could be the way we install systems. It could be the markets we serve. It could be the employer of choice. There's 1,000 things that we can be best at. What I want to be best at, and what this company wants to be best at, is creating the first ever in this industry, and I've been around it my entire life, the first ever fully integrated, capital F, capital I, fully integrated service provider that serves all the markets that we want to operate in. And that, to my understanding, has never been done before. But our leadership team, being able to integrate those businesses from the back end, can gain insights into those businesses that we can help drive value, that will help our employees serve their customers better and actually have a better career with better opportunity. It'll help our customers get the absolute best from our Zeus companies, and it'll help our business continue to grow. So we're deeply passionate about being the first and only to ever do it. And I think, Kevin, we can be the best in the world at it.
And you're well on your way. I have a bit of a unique lens into all the great things that you guys are doing. I'd love you to double click on that because there's a practical execution of a technology investments that you're making, team investments you're making, how you think about bringing together all these disparate systems to discern insight and use that insight to derive action.
Yeah.
And one of the things you've done really nicely in the last year or two is really to begin to understand that not every customer is the same,
Yeah.
right? And you understand uniquely the needs of a large rental operator or a small rental operator or an auto dealer or a healthcare company, or the myriad of other categories that you guys that serve so well. I want to talk a little bit how that systems architecture works because I think it is truly unique, and we see it oftentimes in these build and buy scenarios, and we use that's purposeful, that we invested in building the platform and now we're acquiring into that holding company.
Yeah. So I think what's misunderstood often in the world of private equity is that there's somehow not an investment made to grow these businesses,
Yeah.
which is mind-boggling because I know how much money Access has invested to grow these businesses. Like there'd be no reason not to invest and then grow. But one of the things that excited me so much about working with Access is the difference between the buy and build and the build and buy. And I remember that was one of the things that immediately got me when I met with you and your team. It was this willingness to go out and say, go hire the best team you can possibly hire because you're going to need them.
One of the things that I think is so powerful about what you've done is making that transition. We see it very often that the smaller operator does 10 jobs.
Right.
They're the old chief cook and bottle washer
For sure.
analogy. And they do the marketing and the sales and the finance and the operations, um, administrative roles.
They wear a lot of
They
hats.
wear a lot of hats. And then all of a sudden, we come in as private equity folks and we say, hey, Scott, we want you to do a bunch of things that you've never done before.
Yeah.
And we're not going to, invest around you to do that or give you a guidepost as to what good looks like. And then very often, I was guilty of this early on in my career, we'd get disappointed when you weren't able to do a bunch of things you've never done before.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that conversation is one of the most important conversations that goes on in a partnership like this.
Yeah.
Um, and that wasn't one conversation you and I had. That was a series of conversations with a lot of the Axis team and yourself. And I got to tell you, you cleared that breach in a really amazing way, and you did it early. And I think that's why you've had all the success you've had.
Well, thank you. I will tell you that what didn't go in the application for the Entrepreneur of the Year award was how scared I was at that moment.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of fear involved. I remember that, one of your partners said to me, look, you didn't come up from the finance side of the business. I didn't. You grew your business organically, not through M&A.
Yes.
Finance is a big piece of what we're doing. M&A is a big piece of what we're doing. Like, why should we hire you? And I'll never forget that conversation. It was telling. It was one of those moments where I think somebody could have easily said, maybe I'm not the right person for this job. But I do believe at the end of the day that every great company needs a competent operator, a good operator, but more importantly, needs a great team. And what I learned more than anything throughout that process was if you can surround yourself by a great team, they can fill gaps
100%.
that you have, and they allow you to flourish in the areas where you're strong. So anybody that looks at me and says, you're strong in this area or that area, needs to ultimately realize that every other area in the business, I'm probably not. And we've got great leaders that fill that gap.
What's the future of Zeus look like?
So we're 3.5 years in. And one of the things that, again, that I loved the first time I met you and your team was there's not a time limit on Zeus. Our job is to build a modern and enduring business. And that's what we're going to do.
I love that you're using our language, by the way. That's with modern and enduring, right?
And it's no longer your language; it's our language now. Like we've adopted it, right?
Yeah.
And we hope that you guys adopt some of our language as well, because
100%.
we're in this together. But because there's no end date, it gives us the ability to do nothing but continue to lay deeper and thicker foundations and continue to grow. So what does it look like in the next couple of years? We're going to continue to enter new markets. We're going to densify those markets with good old-fashioned organic growth. We're going to densify them through infill acquisitions. And then, Kevin, we're going to continue to refine our processes in such a way that we help our employees serve our customers better than anyone else in the marketplace. If we continue to do that and innovate and continue to innovate, we're going to be just fine.
So, Scott, you've got a unique perspective, having been on this journey now with us for a minute
Yep.
or two.
Mm-hmm.
And the journey started long before we ever consummated a transaction. And you spent a lot of time engaging with us, asking questions, going through our destination planning process.
Yeah.
And so you've got a perspective that's really well informed about partner selection.
Yeah.
What have you learned, and what would you tell the next friend of yours who's an entrepreneur about this phase of the journey, where you bring in an institutional capital partner like an Axis Holdings? What learnings would you take away? I don't know that I want the full answer to this question, but I'll take it.
You'll get the full answer. So I had an opportunity to sell my business to a strategic, to another alarm company, and we would have been folded in, and we would have been part of something that was, enormous, where our customers would have been numbers and our employees would have been less than numbers, right? And we didn't want that.
Right.
We wanted to build something. I wanted to build something bigger than UAS, but I wanted it to be done in a way that would excite everybody, not freak everybody out. And I think you can make a decision for just the mighty dollar and freak everybody out and walk away, or you can do the right thing and you'll be rewarded with that dollar down the road, right? So I made the decision that private equity, that a capital partner would be the right decision for me. Then it was, how do I find the right one? And I got lucky. I was introduced to you by a common friend. And truth be told, Kevin, I was in your office for 1 hour, and maybe the first meeting was an hour, maybe 90 minutes. And I got in the car and I called my wife on the way home and I said, I found our partner. I knew I found our partner because the people sitting around the table spoke the way I needed to hear people speak about what it meant to operate an enduring business. So I heard the word modern before. I heard the word enduring before. I know what they both mean, but used together to help define what our business could be down the road is what really excited me. So then box checking, right? Do they have the capital to help us do this? Do they have the talent? Well, capital check. Do they have the talent? That was clear around the table from day one. Yeah, the talent's there to do it. Are they willing to partner with us in a way that doesn't say, hey, we're going to show up at your board meeting next quarter, kind of opine on what you did or didn't do, or are you going to be there with me and help me? Because I knew going in, I didn't have all the answers.
Right.
And by the way, that would have been the height of arrogance to think I did. So I guess my short answer would be, if I'm advising somebody looking for a capital partner, I'd advise them to pick a partner that is committed to their space, right? Is committed, and that's not just pocketbook, but I'm talking about committed to the longevity of that space, what's right for that business. Talk about their employees and the business in a way that resonates with a business owner, because our employees are a family. They've always been. For me, it's 35 years of knowing the people that I'm surrounded by. That's family. I wanted to make sure that that wouldn't get lost, that I had the ability to build culture, that things like that mattered, and it wasn't just a financial transaction. But we talked about innovation, and I wanted to make sure that whoever I'd partner with was willing to help us innovate the business in a way that I wasn't capable of. I could have gone to a bank and borrowed a bunch of money and done this myself. But at our scale, the size we were at that time, I needed a partner that had the ability and the proven track record to scale businesses in a way that I could never imagine. And we talked about humility, we talked about curiosity, we talked about all those things before. There's never been a time that had to show up more for me. And by the way, a willingness to say I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
Right. That showed up for me in your office in that first day and really every day since. So my advice for somebody looking for a capital partner would be to find a partner like Axis Holdings that checks all those boxes to ensure that they're going to be successful and that their vision is actually going to come to fruition, because your vision and my vision for what Zeus are the same vision. There's no daylight between us.
Yes.
We're on the same team. And the last thing I'll say is, because I could talk about this for an hour, last thing I'll say is it's important that both parties acknowledge that they're on the same side of the table.
Yeah.
Because our wins are your wins are our wins, and that goes the same with losses. So we need each other, and as long as we continue to need each other, we're going to be great partners.
100%. And I loved about that journey. I wish I knew the answer after 90 minutes, in the sense that I was on that conversation with your wife, because it took us still a minute on our side and your side to actually come to that shared vision, right? You had it. We had a perspective as best we can as finance guys.
Yeah.
Right. And we showed you all of our research, and we took you through what was an early version of something now that we do as if it's a religion for us, which is this destination planning process.
Yeah.
Where we came together and said, okay, and I love this from one of our colleagues, begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
And we said, hey, Scott, if in 5 years we looked like what? Tell us. Would you be satisfied? Right. And then we had to say the same thing. Well, we want more of this or less of this. And we had that alignment around the end objective.
Yeah.
And then we worked backwards. And we said, in order to get there, what do you need to do, Scott? What do we need to do? Are you willing to take your hands off the wheel of some of these jobs that candidly you're doing because there's nobody else to do them?
Yeah.
But maybe not your best and highest use?
Yep.
And then how are we going to bring in people that are going to help us enable these capabilities we know are necessary for us to grow? And we had that conversation before we ever consummated the partnership, right?
So for sure. So the thesis that you're talking about in the industry, which you and your team spent almost 3 years building.
Yes.
And I'm happy to say this on camera, was about 80% baked, meaning I was completely blown away that people that had never spent a day in the industry operating had nailed the industry at an 80%. Like, that's a B. That's pretty good.
You had a conversation with a lot of private equity. We tend to have a lot of conversations, and like you do a very good job of listening. I hope we do as well.
Well, you did, because I think we got the other 20% right before we actually completed that first destination plan. And right now it's July. In the middle of August, we're going to complete our 4th destination plan. And that also can't be lost on anybody and shouldn't be lost on anybody. We don't just create a destination plan on day one and say that's our North Star and that's it. We do it each and every year, because the world changes. I'm a big believer that really, Kevin, in all walks of life, we're all basically living the same lives, right? We've all got a family. We all drive to work. We all have deadlines. We all have obligations and responsibilities. But to be around 6 people with the same work issues and challenges and rewards that I do it's a true gift that you gave us.
Well, it's nice when the ecosystem starts to generate its own wind and own power, and it's been a good learning journey for us too. Because I think the only ask that I have of all of you when you come out of this, please give us the feedback, even if it's somewhat annotated or challenged, because look, it's been a journey for us too. And I think that's one of the things that I hope we can bring is a little bit of empathy on our side, having built Access from the ground up, and made plenty of mistakes along the way on our side, but with the aspiration of always getting a little bit better, and ideally never making that same mistake twice. And I think that systems architecture we're trying to build, we can only build with the feedback and engagement that you and the rest of, I think, our extraordinary cohort of executives brings.
Yeah, for sure. Atomic Habits is back there getting 1% better every day. James Clear. And I think if we all do that, we get exponentially better throughout the year and throughout the years. And I think Zeus is an example of a company, thanks to our team, thanks to the partnership with Access, that has gotten exponentially better and will continue to get exponentially better over the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years. And I just can't wait for the journey.
Well, you're building the flywheel. And we talk a lot about that, this pachinko machine of growth, both inorganic and organic, and such that every kind of dollar that flows through, every new customer relationship enhances the ecosystem and creates more efficiency and value for our customers, our employees, and obviously, most importantly, from the seat I sit in, it allows us to have the opportunities to do what we do, obviously for our investors.
Yeah. It's been a great 3.5 years, and I look forward to the next 1.5 and beyond. Kevin, thank you, not just for leading this conversation today, but for being a true partner in every sense of the word. From day one, Access Holding has believed in what we're building at Zeus, and your support has helped us grow with purpose, not just pace. I'm also incredibly honored to receive the first ever Modern Business Builder Award. It's a great source of pride that I share equally with every member of the Zeus leadership team and the entire Zeus family. To our team members across the country, this is your story, your recognition, and your moment. The Ernst & Young Award, the Access Modern Business Builder Award, they're both reflections of the culture, integrity, and grit that you bring to this work each and every day. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We hope these conversations give you a deeper look at what makes Zeus different, special, and most importantly, where we're headed next, because we're just getting started. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that you can keep up to date with what's happening at Zeus. And as always, remember, at Zeus Fire and Security, we're better when we're together.